Good morning. It's the A to Z Podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, for helping this thing grow, for supporting our sponsors, which is Cleveland Scene, the Honeymoon Grill, American Fireworks. Dre, you're in Chicago. The baseball season is winding down, which means for the Indians it's just starting. And it's BakerMania back here. Believe it or not, NBA training camps are underway. The season is changing. I'm assuming the weather is similar in Chicago, but before it gets lost, especially not just because I get accused of letting it get lost, things are becoming clear for the Indians, right? It's going to be Indians-Astros. It's going to start a week from Friday in Houston. The rotation should be lined up, although there are some questions regarding the guy who started last night, Tuesday night. So let's talk a little baseball. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me. But let me just say one thing that I'm glad you kind of said. It's funny, right before we started in my room, I was kind of cleaning my room up, getting ready to pack up to get out of here. And Teddy Bruschi in the Baker Mayfield conversation was going on, and he said it's inevitable. He's going to not play as good sooner than later. I just fear the turnaround in Cleveland on Baker Mayfield because I know we've talked about this already, and we'll get back to baseball. He's going to turn the ball over. He hasn't thrown a touchdown. I don't know. The further we get from last Thursday, the more I fear just I don't even know the word to use. Just it's funny, like just seeing it from outside the perspective of being at home in Cleveland. And I still turn on some of the radio stations, some of the radio shows at home, some of the guys that I liked. I get it, but I fear the turnaround is going to come when he does what we all know he's going to do. Baseball wise, it's thank God we're at the point that we're at. I know I talked to the Pittsburgh Pirates are in the same hotel as we are here in Chicago, and they're taking on the Cubs, and it just reminds you of a couple of the people that I know that work with the Pirates, around the Pirates, are like, man, this is gonna be an exciting time, you guys. And I'm like, dude, the only excitement we have is the week that this regular season is almost over. It's been weird. I mean, it's just been weird. Like somebody asked me yesterday at our game. They were like, well, when's the last time you guys had a meaningful game? And it was during our rain delay yesterday. And Rick Manning was standing right there, and I was like, well, fuck. The last game that meant something was like, and the guy was like, well, I'm looking at you guys' numbers, and when was the last time you thought you'd catch the Astros? And I go, the last time a game meant something was fucking like August 18th when we played Boston. And the guy looked at me real weird. And he was like, well, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'm dead serious. I go, there hasn't been a big game or anything that really mattered all year long. I think that's why, like, when you see Kluber win 20 games, and you see Tito, and you just see how excited his teammates were for him. This season has kind of become that, guys getting their numbers. I think there's more excitement about Kluber getting 20 wins. There's more excitement about Edwin getting 100 RBIs and 30 home runs. There's more excitement about Jose getting 30 stolen bases and 30 home runs, being a 30-30 guy, third one, than the day in and day out of just the games. And I'm not complaining about this. It's just what the season has been because of the opponents and because of the situation. They've had a 5-month trial to get ready for the playoffs, and thank God in a week the playoffs will be here, and we'll find out. We'll find out if they're ready. You can't fault them for their division. You can't fault them, because of how they've been set up and how the other teams have been set up. I think what we've really seen is when you look at all the numbers, because there's a lot of crazy numbers in baseball this year, in my mind. The Astros now have 100 wins. The Boston Red Sox have won more games than they've ever won before. The Yankees have won a ton of games. The A's, I think, are at 90 wins. The wild card. Tampa's goddamn near the same record as the Indians. I think that plays into those teams. All that I just mentioned are really good. And then everybody else in baseball in the American League sucks. And the Indians took advantage of it. Seriously, I mean, there's a couple good teams, and there's a lot of bad teams, and that's fine. That's just that's the rhythm of how a season goes, and that's just what we have right now.
I'm glad you brought this up. We'll go. We got time, whether it's today or next weekend. It's probably both to go blow by blow with the Astros, right? Your job. You have a lot of fun with it. It's really cool. It's been awesome. All that goes on, but we've talked about this publicly and privately, and you haven't experienced this because the Indians have been good. If you covered a team that sucked, it would suck right now. It would suck in August. It would suck in July. You mentioned sharing a hotel with another team. You guys are playing the White Sox, who have been awful for years, the Royals, who are in tank mode this weekend. What are your peers like right now? Do they even know what day it is, the ones who cover those teams?
No. I feel bad for them. To be completely honest, I feel bad for them. And not in a sarcastic way, but because I had this conversation with my bosses with Fox. I'm glad you brought this up. And obviously there's some days you got to go in a clubhouse and the team doesn't win and people are pissed off and, or a guy just gave up fucking 3 home runs or whatever. And obviously post games can be different when a team wins or when a team loses. And when you've become accustomed to being a winning team, and the Indians basically have in the period of time that I've had this job, I'm not going to say you can get lazy, but you can just get used to, things being, working out kind of well. And the comment I always give when people bitch to me about how tough their season has been is, hey, I did six seasons with the Cleveland Browns. And usually when I say that, people go, yeah, you're right, my bad. That's kind of how some of the people that I work with, when you ask, like when other guys that work for other teams, when they complain or say something, it's our job. Your job is still to be entertaining, and your job is still to show up and act like it's April 4th, and that there's all this excitement in the air, and you can't wait to get back to the ball field. But that's false. That's not true. Like when it sucks, it sucks. And for like Pittsburgh, the guys that know from Pittsburgh, they're like, hey, we had that good run after the All-Star break. We made a trade that kind of surprised everybody. We thought we would kind of be in it for a while, but once the reality came that we weren't going to be in it, it sucks because you still got to go on the air at 6:30 or at 7 o'clock, smile and put a bow tie on it and make everything look good and feel good. And I'm appreciative of that because, like you said, we play Chicago today. We go to Kansas City tomorrow. 3 years ago, the Kansas City Royals were in back-to-back. We're riding high. They were in back-to-back World Series, won their first World Series since the 80s, and now they're going to lose 100 games. And there's no opening to say when they're going to be better. It's not like they have like this pride, like all these rookies or all these young players who are like, hey, when this guy gets healthy and this guy does this, we're going to be back in it. We don't know that. So I'm appreciative that the Indians are at a great place right now that not a lot of other cities can say. And this isn't going to last forever because I know, here's the one thing I will say, like the guys from Pittsburgh, they've got plans. Like one dude's going to Aruba next week. One guy's going, I'm getting on a plane to go to Houston next week, and I'm excited about it. But he's just as excited that he's done working, and he's going to get on a plane and go to Aruba and sit around and drink Mai Tais. My buddy in Kansas City that works for Kansas City, he's going right into doing, he'll start doing football games again, ready for college basketball season. That to me is the eye opener for me to appreciate where we're at. Most other people that do the job that I do or work around what I do, they're making like one of Bardo, who works with us. He's he's on the CBS #1 team that does football games. So he's like, yeah, season's over, but he goes right into doing football. So I'm appreciative because I know the other side is not nearly as good as what we have right now.
Yeah, and that. That's the reality. I mean, 82 in the NFL is brutal. I mean, or in the NBA, excuse me, especially because now they start on like October 15th, and it just limps to April 15th. I mean, we all know 16 in the NFL is brutal, but that goes pretty fast. It's generally one a week, and we were all limping to the finish last year. That being said, Dre,
16 usually is fast. I was going to say 16 usually is fast. Last 3-4 years in Cleveland, it's been long.
No, it's been long. I got the gray hairs to prove it.
It's like the Chris Rock thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the Chris Rock saying that always said, life is long when your kid is fucked up. Life is
I always tell people I'm only 25. I just look a lot older because I've covered the Browns for a long time. So,
right.
as it turns and as it goes, obviously every team, the Red Sox are going to end up winning 110-plus games or whatever, and some teams are going to sneak in. And we've seen the hot wild card team win in baseball before because they're hot at the right time. Yeah. So every team faces this win or go home situation, and obviously you handle it differently. Do you think this Indians team will handle this situation where you're right, they have played very few games that matter. They have had ups and downs, some of their own doing, some of just the circumstances that go with any competitive baseball season. And now they got to turn it on and go down. And, you got to get one of those first two realistically to win this series. So
you're right.
What do you think from a makeup readiness standpoint, whether, things you hear, things you observe every day in terms of that?
You just use the right word, makeup. This isn't a team of this isn't a bunch of young kids that are just happy to be in the playoffs. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes the exuberance of being there for the first time and not knowing what you're encountering is nice. The ignorance of bliss or whatever, it's true. It's real. But I think it's different with this team because I think I've said this before in the podcast, and I've said it before, and I won't say what player said this to me. You have guys now that realize that whether if we win 82 games or if we win 110 games, no one's going to give a shit if we get blown out in the first round of the playoffs.
Amen.
And I think that's really simple, and that doesn't answer everything. That doesn't say who they are. I think they have enough veterans. Here, I'll say it like this: they have enough guys that know that this opportunity may be their last opportunity. I got to be careful how I talk about this because I don't want fans to get pissed because there's certain conversations I have. Look, if you're a free agent, there's realistic. We're all realistic, right? I know Michael Brantley's contract situation. I know Jason Kipnis' contract situation. I know Josh Tomlin's contract situation, and everybody else in the clubhouse does. And I won't say how it goes, but use your imagination. If you're around a friend, and you know that he may be out of a job or he may have to move, and you're around him so much and you bust balls constantly, don't you think you'll bust balls about stuff like that? Where the hell are you going to be? I guess what I'm saying is there is a reality amongst everyone in that clubhouse of who probably won't be here next year. And I think that's a motivation. I'm trying to say this the right way when I'll say, there's a motivation of, hey, I may go make $10 million next year for another team, but I may not be able to have a chance to be in the playoffs and have a chance to have a pitching staff that's one of the best in baseball's history. I think that's the thing that's going to push this team. They know that they're only going to be judged upon what happens starting next week. Just like Houston, just like Boston, just like New York. Art said it on TV last night. He was like, hey, I'd rather start against the Astros than anyone else. Because as we talk to scouts, remember I told you last year when you were at Progressive Field how this Yankee scout had been following us for a month?
Right.
And just knew everything about our team. Same guy's been following. And I saw him 2 days ago. Here, and I said, hey, man, why don't you just get on our plane and start flying with us? And he laughed. Because he's literally everywhere we go. Everywhere we go, this scout has been for over a month. And the Yankees have sent 2 or 3 guys, the Sox, Toronto. I can tell you, I know, it's to the point now where we laugh, where you go into a lunchroom and you see him and you're like, Jesus, you guys just are going to cover us? You're not worried about anybody else? And he was like, I'm the fact checker on the Indians. That's my job. That's the seriousness of where the playoffs are at. The Yankees realize it. The Indians realize it. I think they're in a good place because I think the finality of this group is coming to an end. And that doesn't mean that the winning ways for the Indians over the next couple of years is going away. But I think there's an acknowledgement that Cody Allen, Andrew Miller, Michael Brantley, Josh Tomlin, there's probably another 1 or 2. They're not going to be here probably next year. You may have one of those guys. But that's going to change. And why that's big is because that nucleus, along with Jan Gomes and a couple others, that nucleus started this thing that they've had going for the last 4 or 5 years of having the most wins in the American League, being one of the most winning teams. And to them, they were all put together for a reason. And the reason worked, but they will feel unfulfilled if they walk away from being with each other, not winning a World Series. That group of people, when people bitch about Josh Tomlin, and I'm trying to think of football-wise, I would say Josh Tomlin is the Phil Dawson of this Cleveland Indians, but everybody would go, he doesn't play that good. But, it's not about that. The respect he has within his clubhouse, the respect that he makes other players respect the game and bring it every night, there's nothing that you can, like, somebody texted me the other day, or somebody tweeted me, and they're like, I don't even know why the fuck they will let Josh Tomlin pitch anymore. And I was like, leadership's more than numbers. Leadership is more than meets the eye. Josh Tomlin has taught Shane Bieber how to be a pro. He's taught Mike Clevenger how to be a pro. I can go down the list. You know what I mean? Like, he's taught these guys. Like, when you were experiencing Indians wins in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, and when you see Shane Bieber become a 18-game winner, or Clevenger become a 20-game winner, or you see Lindor take care of people the way he takes care of people, it goes back to Josh Tomlin and what Josh Tomlin taught them about how the Indians way is going to work. I don't think we give people enough credit for that, but that's why he's here. And I think because of that, you're going to have a team that's ready to play next week in Houston. And like you said, they got to win one of the first 2 games. I've said this to you in text messages. I'll say it now out loud. If they win the first round, they're going to win the World Series. But they're good enough to get swept in 3 with Houston. They're good enough to win the World Series. I think they need the momentum of that first series to get going.
I think that's a fair take. The other thing, Dre, not just the urgency from those guys, but this core has been there, and as you mentioned, which is so true, the 100-win seasons and the AL Central banners, like, that'll all be great in 15 years when the Indians have a weekend and come back and honor these guys, right? But they know that 2 years ago they came a couple of pitches from winning the whole thing, and last year they went home in the first round. So that drives you more than anything else too when you've had guys that have done that, because they know which they prefer. Absolutely. So.
Yeah, they know that. Well, and I think the thing they learned was there was a giddiness in 16 of, oh my God, like a giddiness that we would all have. Holy shit, we made holy shit, we just beat Boston. Holy shit, we just beat Toronto. Oh my God, we're in the World Series. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, we just won a World Series game at Wrigley Field. And then the reality came when they were up 3-1 of, oh shit, it's really hard to finish this. And then last year, everything just kind of came together, and you win the 22 games in a row. And I'm not going to say, and everybody's like, oh, they peaked too early. I don't think there's such a thing, but it's funny because I heard Alex Bregman say this last night. He was like, we've played our best baseball late, and he said, and we knew we had to do that. He goes, you can't set it up. He goes, but it's better to play late, better to play your best baseball late than to do it in April or May. And I'd chuckle because I'm like, that's the same exact thing that the Indians are thinking. Players have been thinking all year long too. Is that, and maybe that plays into this, into how they played this year. Kind of lethargic at times.
Yeah, I think peak too early is a thing. I think it takes on different forms depending on your circumstance, your team, even your sport. But I do think that, Dre, because I think, as we go along in all these long seasons, you see even really good teams, they have to adjust. They get something taken away. Somebody slumps. Some unforeseen circumstance changes. And especially in the regular baseball season, like when you are peaking and streaking, and then all of a sudden it changes. Nobody really gives a shit about a 4-game series on a weekend somewhere where you drop 3 or 4 after you've won 15 to 20, right? But if you do that in October, you're out, and you go home, and it's all for naught.
You're done. Yeah, no, that's true. But I think I'm trying to think what other way you could say this. You're right, but you can't pick when you peak.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
And I think like for you, sometimes you write your best article. You might write an article that you didn't plan on when you start writing. You didn't plan on it being great. You just had an idea and it comes together. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you may have all the background that you want in the world for an article. You may have talked to the best people, got the best quotes, and for whatever reason, the best story doesn't come out. That right? That's life. For whatever reason, you didn't peak on a certain article that you wrote, and it's not because you didn't try. It's not because you didn't, put the time in. It just wasn't the time to do it. That I'm sure that happens, right?
Yeah, I think going back to the 16 NBA Finals, when Draymond got suspended for doing what he does, obviously that not only kept the Cavs alive and got their confidence going, but I think the Warriors lost a little of their mojo in that, just the timing, everything. I mean,
for sure.
Forget Kevin Durant, because that took them to a new level. But what made them great when they went from nothing to that was they got you going downhill, and 4 guys touched it on a possession, and every 4 or 5 guys shot threes, and they threw it between their legs and behind their backs, and they laughed at you. Well, they never got that. And remember that last turnover in that game, Steph Curry throws the same behind-the-back pass he'd thrown 800 fucking times that year, and he throws it out of bounds, right? Because they just never got that swagger is not the exact word, but it's what comes. That whole timing of everything, they just never got it back. They were never themselves.
Right. And I think that's when you're the Cleveland Indians. That I'm glad you brought that up. That's what they have to be. And I think and Tito kind of said this about getting Josh Donaldson. He was like, when we started talking about getting Josh Donaldson, we said to each other, no matter how good he is, no matter how healthy he is, he can't change the chemistry of who we are. You know, like we can't let him come in here. And Tito's first conversation was with him. He's like, "Hey man, you're a hell of a ball player. I love watching you. I love watching what you bring to the table. But to make this work, you got to fit in, man, because these dudes been together for a while. So if you don't think you can fit in, let's not do it." Like that was literally like part of the conversation. And Tito just said to me a day ago that he fits in. He goes, the best thing about Josh Donaldson so far is that he's one of the guys. Like, and it was the weirdest thing when the team clinched. Because, you know, Donaldson had played like 3 games with the team. And I remember, like, my producer's in my ear of, like, as I'm getting splashed with shit left and right, he's like, "Hey, man, see if Donaldson's around to do an interview." And I said back, I was like, "That's kind of weird, dude. He's played 2 games, 3 games." And I'll give Donaldson credit because I think this plays into just the chemistry you have as a team. He was around for, like, the first, like, when, like, Edwin gave, like, a speech that was really cool. That was great because Edwin never speaks. Edwin is the E.F. Hutton of the Cleveland Indians. Like, to the point that you literally, when I see Edwin, I used to be like, "Hey, Edwin, how you doing? Hey, Eddie, how you doing?" And he would just go, like, literally. So now when I see Edwin, I literally go, "Hey, Eddie, and he laughs and goes, "Hey." Like, we just grunt at each other now, but that's what some of his teammates do. And Edwin got everybody together. But the cool thing I've learned about Edwin, and this is why I've learned, and as a person, I'm trying to be better at this. Don't judge everybody off of how you want people to judge you. Edwin's different, and his teammates respect the shit out of him. So when he stopped everybody from partying and basically said, "Hey, this is just one goal. Don't get too fucking happy. Let's enjoy this. But we got 3 more of these to do." And it meant so much more coming from Edwin than coming from Lindor or whomever else, because everybody knows he barely talks. But the point that I was making with Donaldson was he popped like a bottle or 2. He let a guy spray him. And then within 10 minutes, he was taking a shower and went and worked out and got out of the way because he felt like it wasn't his party to be at.
Yeah.
That's how you fit in.
That's interesting. Work. I mean, he has a distinctive look, so if you watch baseball, you know Josh Donaldson. But by the same token, taking that away, he could be a Cleveland hero in a couple swings in the next couple weeks.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And that's why you go get him, right? That's why you go get him, because
absolutely
wherever he fits. Okay, just a couple of things then before we move on. Do you think Bauer will start in the first round? Does how he looks Sunday play a huge factor in that? And then, are there any surprises with the lineup or how you have to attack Houston's first 2 pitchers?
The one good thing the Indians have going when it comes, I'm going to start with the Houston stuff. The one good thing is next Friday we're going to have an epic American League pitching showdown of 2 Hall of Famers. And the best thing the Indians have going, and it's confidence is something that's real weird because too much of it can get you in trouble. Not enough of it can get you left to the wayside, right? They've hit with Justin Verlander better than any team in baseball. But the Justin Verlander that they're going to see in Houston is back to feeling like the guy that was a damn near MVP 10 years ago. Kluber's always pitched pretty well down in Houston. So I think that first game, I don't give a shit what the matchups are in any other playoff. There may not be a better playoff match, game 1 in the playoffs all year long than what we're going to see Friday. I think that's going to be fun. I think if Kluber can go out Verlander's got 280 strikeouts this year. Like, it's been amazing what he's been able to accomplish. The Bauer question is the $1 million question. I think, and we're recording this Wednesday afternoon after he pitched and Cookie pitched. I think the surprise will be this. I think you'll see, and I don't even know this. I don't think anybody around the team knows this. So this is a complete guess. I think obviously Friday you're going to see Kluber. I think Saturday is going to be Carrasco. I think the game at home, game 3, which will be bananas, will be Bauer starting. And I think Cookie goes to the bullpen, and I think Cookie's going to be the hero of the AL DS because I think he's going to be going to the bullpen, and he'll probably be on the mound in some huge moments in game 4 or game 5. That would be my surprise. I think
so the answer is both. He'll start and pitch out of the bullpen.
Yes. And and the thing is, it could it could be Bauer that they do that way. Put it this way, if Bauer was healthy, it would be him that was doing it. But Bauer is healthy. It's just he hasn't pitched as much. I think they have, and I know Cookie got the loss last night, they feel like after watching how the playoffs worked last year and watching how Miller took over the playoffs 2 years ago, they know that they have the right arm that's hot. The right arm that's hot can damn near win you. Last year it was look at what they did with the Astros. They won with starting pitchers in the bullpen. I think the Indians realize that they feel like Hand is healthy. Miller is the best he's been all year right now. Cody Allen's at a good place. And if you can add Bauer or Cookie to that mix, they feel like they can. And it's just like anything else in life. They feel like they can beat anybody because of those 6 names I just said. And I haven't mentioned anybody that swings a bat. They just feel like if Miller is Miller, which he's looked like, if Cody can be Cody, Brad Hand can be Brad, and then you get 3 starters to be right, and Shane Bieber will go to the bullpen too, they think they can beat anybody. And I think that's the best thing the Cleveland Indians have. They don't care about the record. They don't care that they got to go to Houston. They just feel like they've got some of the best guys in the game. And when they're on, they can beat anybody. And that's, to me, if you want to have a cockiness about the Cleveland Indians going to the playoffs, is that those arms are right.
Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Youngstown, rest up and dry out this weekend because you got a chance. If the Browns win on Sunday in Oakland, Sunday, October 7th, Ravens at home is going to be fucking off the chain in that stadium. And the very next night, the Indians could be 1-1 or up 2-0 hosting Game 3 against the Astros. So I would.
Well, somebody what's his name, said that during the Thursday night game. The guy everybody hates when he fell in love with Schwarber. That does the games
Joe
for
Buck.
Fox. I can't think of it.
Joe
Buck. He basically said he goes with the way the Indians are set up and the way the Mayfield Mania is going, it's going to be a fun October in Cleveland, Ohio, because he was like, the Indians are going to go far with the talent they have. And I remember like somebody tweeted me, they're like, I can't believe Joe Buck said something nice about us. It's like, I love how we either love or hate people because of what they say about different teams and different players. But he's right. We have, like you said, imagine. I mean, let's go 1 week at a time with the Brownies. I think they got a good chance to win this week.
Look, let's go 1 week at a time. Yeah, let's go 1 week at a time. But to take an honest look at it, Dre, I mean, we know because we saw it on September 9th, like winter broke out and a monsoon hit the stadium. But first Sunday in October should be good weather, right? The Ravens are in, and they're ahead of you in the standings right now. That could change on Sunday if the Browns win. But even if the Browns lose, you're coming home to play a divisional game, Baker's first home start, probably a game that a lot of people said, okay, tickets for the opener are hard to get. The next one's a Thursday night. I can't do that. Like one game I would want to go to would be the Ravens. So win or lose, it's for big. Sure. Win, it's humongous because this is a team that has not had a winning record in September since 2011. This is a team that has not won a division game since 2015. So, so this excites me. You're right. And to go back to your original Baker point, there's a lot of things that went Baker's and the Browns' way in that game. It was a perfect storm of the Jets knowing Tyrod's every move, knowing none of his, being gassed, the momentum switching, the crowd getting behind – as the momentum switched, all of that stuff, and bigger challenges lie ahead. That being said, if the guy's going to come out and be accurate and throw the kind of darts that he threw to different levels of the defense, and your defense is going to give you 2 turnovers, then you are going to come home 2-1-1. Excuse me, I got a little excited there. and that stadium is going to be drunk as hell and wired all up on October 7th. So this is a huge game for the Browns. And when you have a real relevant NFL team, and I know through the 19-game losing streak or winless streak and all this other stuff, we lost perspective of this. It's what it's supposed to be. Every week is big, and the more you win, the more it becomes must-win, the more the stakes raise.
Sure.
It's just been a while here. That's all. Like I said, Oakland with the West Coast offense, attacks some places the Browns are vulnerable. The defensive coordinator has been in Cincinnati forever and ever. He knows Hugh. He knows Haley. He knows this stuff. There's some things not going the Browns' way. That being said, Oakland has some flaws, and the Browns have a real chance. And I do expect Baker to play well. I don't expect Baker to throw 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, but I think he will grasp the moment. I think he will attack the Raiders the way the Browns have not really attacked teams until the second half of last week, and I think it'll come down to the last couple of minutes, and I won't be the least bit surprised if the Browns do win the game and come home with a momentum, and then the shit really hits the fan and gets crazy around here.
I won't either. Everything you said comes with it, you're right, but the best quarterbacks in the world have thrown interceptions and lost games.
Sure.
He's played a half. I'll only be interested to see just the adjustments. Defense. Like, look, the beauty of the NFL is there's no secrets. Like, there's no special play. We've said this before. There's no special plays. There's no I got a play that you've never seen before. I just wanted, and look, because they can't get after the quarterback, talk about the Raiders, that helps. That helps Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
I just all I'm saying is I think it was good for me to get away from the storm a little bit. I don't got anything against Baker Mayfield. I'm happy that you guys are happy. It was a great moment the other night. It was awesome. But the further I get away from it, it just keeps hitting me. He only played a half. He didn't even throw a touchdown. Yeah, I know, and I know I come off as a hater, but I'm truly not. I'm really, really not. Just reality based. Like you just look at it, and it's like, okay, he did his job, but there's a lot of job left to do.
Sure.
Is that that's my and I just when I hear people talking about it's bigger than a playoff game, and I hear people saying put him up on the jumbo, put him up on that, where LeBron was at, do this, and I'm just like, hold your horses, please. Like let's let it cultivate. Like it's just.
No, hey,
I get it.
Look.
And you said something that put me back into place. They went 19 games without winning, but that gives people a false security of just losing their mind because of one win. Don't be that. Like, you are smarter than most of you guys are smarter than thinking one game changes everything.
Somewhere in either his office or a shady bar in Greensburg, Pennsylvania is my brother, and he just heard this discussion, and he's thinking about his favorite rapper, Mace, and he's thinking "Mo money, mo problems." Right? The Browns needed to break that streak, right? For everybody's mental health and physical health, and selling jerseys and letting the fans sell. And it was an all-time scene. I'm working on my Asking Jackson column, and Springer's writing in asking me to rank where that ranks, because it was a moment. I mean, think about the scope of it, right? And
right.
Now you go to another challenge, and then bigger challenges behind that. I mean, the Ravens historically, what have they done to rookie quarterbacks? They've ended their parades, right? The Chargers maybe getting Joey Bosa back for that game, right? Maybe you can go to Tampa and we're like, oh, there's a million different scenarios, and that's all good. It's just bigger challenges lie ahead. And look, Baker's going to miss a guy, not see a guy, get fooled, because everyone does. Drew Brees does in year 15. Tom Brady does in year 20, right? And it's going to be on how he handles it, how the Browns handle it. And here's a big thing, like a lot of these turnovers, I mean, the take nothing away from the defense. Sometimes it's random because it's an oblong ball and it bounces funny, right? And sometimes you have a chance to pick off a terribly thrown pass, and you're a defensive back, not a receiver, and you drop it. Where sometimes off 3 caroms, you catch it, nobody touches you, and you run 30 yards the other way. Like, you want the Browns, obviously, to win. They've shown signs that every game is going to come down to these wild plays and wild bounces. You hope that your team stays on the right side on more of them than not, and you see where it goes. So that's why I said, don't feel like it's over on Monday if they don't win, but know that going here, it's a different challenge. The Raiders see this as the one they have to win. It's across the country.
Yep.
It's the first time you've seen tape on them, and we'll see what happens. I think the main thing is 3-4 weeks from now, when the Browns get ready to play the Steelers the second time around and get ready to get to the midpoint of the season, I see an offense that's improving, obviously Baker being the biggest part of that, and I think you see real progress then. But right now, good or bad or indifferent or both good or bad, it's going to be part of the process, and we'll see. I just think it's both fun and fair to think about the Muni lot being full of shit next Sunday at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Hey man, that's what the season's all about. Let me take it back. Let me take myself back a notch. The winning and losing is cool, and what it's about. But really, what sets everything apart, but like nothing else, is like you said, going to the Muni lot on a Sunday morning, and hanging out with your friends, and having the reality of like not being the biggest butt of every joke, right?
Sure.
Like, that's what I get it. I don't want to be the dick that sits here and tries to rain on the parade, because that's not what I want to do. Because I get the excitement, and you deserve it. And I guess for me, it's the reality, and you know this because you've traveled. When you travel and you get out of the vortex that is the vortex, it's way easier for me to be like, all right, you only played one game. Let's see how he reacts to this. Let's see this. But you just hit on something. What Baker Mayfield truly gave the Cleveland Brown fandom was a chance to believe in themselves, a chance to brag about themselves. I saw Chico Bourbon, who I'm a fan of, that works over at 92, who does a night show. I like listening to him. He put up a tweet that I thought was great, because Chico's probably older than me. I would guess. I'm not trying to put him down, but
shit,
he
that's
put
hard
up
to do.
a picture. Shit, I'm in the beauty part of age, bitch. But he put up this picture, and he was like, last time I owned a Browns jersey, and it was like him at like 20, I'm guessing, and Chico will let me know if he hears this, but it was a Bernie Kosar jersey, and it was in the Muni lot, and it was, the mid-'80s. And I was like, holy shit, it's just like a great picture. And he said, he goes, I wonder if 6 is the next jersey I finally buy, that I can finally buy and believe in. And I thought that tweet, like, just that put it all in perspective for me. That even a guy that's older, that's mature, that's been through life, the last jersey he had that meant something was and I'm sure, and look, there's 15 guys that are listening to this podcast right now that have Derek Anderson, have Kellen Winslow, Ruben Drones. You can go to the list of jerseys that we see. And Phil Savage used to say this to you and I all the time. He would say, Andre, Zach, I want to be able to come to the Muni lot. I want to come into the field on a Sunday, and I don't want to see a Kevin Mack jersey or a Jim Brown jersey or a Bernie Kosar jersey. I want fans in our guys' jerseys. Remember, That was like one of his things that he said would drive him. He would tell you and I this all the time, that it was just frustrating and tough because there was never – there was nothing to celebrate for Brown.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I was going to say something similar. That was 12, 13 years ago he had this discussion with us, right? And over the last 2 weeks, I went out. I was out in Cleveland for a while before Thursday night's game. I was up there way early because I drove a couple of my idiot friends. I was in New Orleans for 2 days where hundreds of Browns fans were, and everybody's in that. The French Quarter is only like a mile from the stadium, so I saw, Dre, so many Peyton Hillises, right? So many Bernie Kosars, Brian Hoyers. Mm-hmm. I saw a Ruben Drones. Every Sunday at home I see a number of Charlie Fries, not just a couple of them, right? But I'll say this. I have, between training camp, that New Orleans trip, and last week walking up and down West 6th, walking over to West 10th, stopping in the pit real quick, I have seen a lot of 6s, and I would think that in the 7 days since then that they've sold a lot of 6s wherever they sell them these days. Do we still have malls? I don't know.
The Athletic Attic is closed.
and I couldn't help but laugh my ass off today as I peeked my ear into Jarvis Landry's interview, and he was getting peppered with the same question about Baker Mayfield 18 different times, and Jarvis kind of smiled the only way Jarvis can, and he said, one thing I know about him, he walk it like he talk it. So there, amigos. I think the opportunity is here. I think the opportunity is here for, let's see, the Ravens come in next weekend. I think the opportunity is here, but by the time the Bengals come in a week before Christmas, then it might be all 6 jerseys in that thing. It might be my friends finally having trouble getting tickets to go to the game before December, rather than laughing at getting them for $5 and sitting wherever they want. Maybe. We'll see.
Slow down now. Slow down. Let's get to Halloween. The one thing we know, everything is great right now. But there have been, and a couple injuries can change everything with this team. And that's why
couple bounces.
Why the encounter of a couple, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I just enjoyed the moment. And I said that on the last podcast. Enjoy getting hyped up for 4 o'clock on Sunday. If you're a Browns fan, you damn right you should be getting pumped up for that. I'm not going to take that away from you. But just temper it, because I think it's a thin line. I appreciate that they've been able to play defensively without Kirko for 2 weeks. I said that last week. I'll say it again. But because this is why it's hard to build a team, hard to build something in the NFL. And for the Browns, you don't have a lot of depth. And when you have, like, if a wrong injury can change the momentum they have going. Let's just hope that it doesn't happen. But there's about 5-6 guys that they have to have on the field to continue growing and building this thing. And I would say the first 3 aren't even 6. That's just me. Like, I get that the defensive end, like, seriously, Myles Garrett has to be a good team to great team. And we can't even get to great yet, because great's a whole nother level. And I'm not going to do like some people that block people on Twitter because he's so full of himself and start talking playoffs. But you need Myles Garrett to play almost every game, right? To make this defense and to turn this defense into what you think you want it to be. Myles Garrett's got to play. There's a couple other names I would say, but I think you just said one. I think their attitude comes from the guy that cussed everybody out on Hard Knocks and told them, that's just contagious, bruh. We laughed about it, but he gives them Jarvis Landry as a wide receiver, and you can't say this about many wide receivers. He gives them an attitude. He gives them a fuck you attitude, and it's different. Like you and I can yell at each other and try to hype each other up. That don't mean nothing if we don't bring it when it's time to do it. Right. He brings it and he does it, and I think that's big. So they need that. He wasn't supposed to play last Thursday night. There was questions leading up to Thursday night whether he could play. That's how you lead a team.
We yell at each other because we're both old and cranky. That shit's contagious, bro.
Yeah, that shit's contagious, bro.
I would sum it up like this. You can be excited as all hell and still need to see more wins in the W column before you really believe it. I think that's fine and fair. And I think last year, multiple years before, any road game, not just going across the country to play a desperate team, you'd have to make a list of about 10 things that would have to go right for the Browns to win, right? Whereas you can say this Sunday, if they force 2 turnovers and Baker throws 2 touchdowns, they're coming home with a win. I just think that it's that. That's how they've closed the talent gap. That's how they've started to build an identity. And that's the level of confidence at which, if you've watched them and know that they can make plays in big minutes, big moments, then we'll see what happens. We're running out of time. I got a lot more things I want to talk about, Dre. 2 things. I'm going to say this out loud, so hopefully you guys hold them to it and so we remember. This new college redshirt rule with the 4 games and you can still be eligible, having some unintended consequences on the transfer market. The Buckeyes have a really big game Saturday night in Happy Valley. Did the Indians play, or will you be able to watch that one, Dre?
I'll be able to watch it. The Indians play.
Okay, good answer.
I've got a pretty good setup now. I've figured out something. Okay. I'll be able to watch it. Don't you worry.
You got the plug? I got the plug.
I got the plug on it. Well, you know what? Let me tweet me this. How many of you guys out there? I'm just curious. There's so many different ways to watch TV now with streaming and everything else. And I won't give into everything else I've gotten and I've figured out between neighbors and different people giving me their codes. I got a Red Zone that I can watch on my iPad now, which is tremendous. I've got like streaming cable that I can watch on my iPad, which is tremendous. There's a lot of different ways to watch stuff and not have to pay for anything. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying. And I don't want nobody to break it down because it's the best thing ever. It's like Saturday night when the Indians were going back and forth. I had Texas Tech and Oklahoma State on, and literally I had every player coming by, and I don't know why because it was like one of the primetime games. I'm hyped up for Penn State, Ohio State though. And let me ask you this question quickly on Penn State, Ohio State. Just if Ohio State loses, it doesn't mean they can't be in the top 4 at the end of the season, does it?
Yeah, it complicates it because the winner of this game probably becomes the East favorite. But with so much football left, you're right. It does not disqualify anyone from anything. If you're a fringe program and you lose right now at the beginning of conference play, you got some real work to do and you're going to need some help. If you're one of the big boys, which Ohio State is, you're not out of it. But the other thing I want to make sure we talk about, look, when Kyrie did what he did, I mean, Kyrie has always been a selfish, pampered child. But now we've seen this from Kawhi and from Jimmy Butler, and in many cases, these franchises, they don't have any choice but to acquiesce to these guys, but to fulfill their wishes. We got an unprecedented Le'Veon Bell situation going on. Sports are changing forever, so you don't have to like the NBA or care about who's redshirting who in college football to know that there's some things going on right now that are changing sports forever, and I want to make sure we talk about that going on down the road. So,
yeah.
But
no. Let me touch on it real quick. Something that you just said. LeBron gave all these players the ability to stand out and go wherever they feel is right. The league has gone out of the way. The NBA has gone out of the way to give players a voice. They give players the strength of really making their league their league. And I think in a lot of ways it's helped the NBA become very popular. It's sold a lot of jerseys. They've become like baseball. They have a hot stove season. They've come like football. You talk about basketball year round. But they've let a little of the toothpaste out of the tooth. The little toothpaste is out of the tube now, right? These guys are, in one way, I hate it. I don't like what's going on, but I respect it a little bit because basically you're seeing guys other than Kyrie, basically you're seeing guys basically tell their teams, I'm not going to sign back with you. Get me out of here now. And I know it's easy from the outside looking in, and I can be the old guy at the bar that's mad at everything and lumps everybody together and lumps the guys that don't stand up for the pledge and this and that is just the jailhouse. What did the Texas owner say about the running the asylum? Like, I see how some people say that, but in some ways, Jimmy Butler, even though I think you're a top 20 player, you're not even the top 10, and you don't deserve a supermax contract. And I would give Karl Anthony Towns the money way before I'd give you the money. I guess what I'm saying is, as much as I don't like the look, it's better than him sulking being on my fucking team for a year and not wanting to be there.
Well, yeah, and the other difference is Le'Veon is to the point that he's given up $900,000 a week. These other guys are still getting their money, and they know it. That's why they're doing it.
Right. Well, NFL, NBA is so different.
Sure.
Le'Veon is because of what you just said. He's throwing away, and like the common guy had Le'Veon's back until he started throwing away $900,000 a week. Because you're never getting that money back. I don't care if he signs a $50, $60, $70 million contract next year. You're not getting back 5 weeks of throwing $1 million away. Like, that's just not – and this is the only time in your life you can attain and do that. And I get it. They were going to give you the ball 30-plus times a game. They were going to wear you out. I get the thought process, but you got to be careful of only thinking the thought process from your angle. And his angle was they're going to beat the shit out of me and not pay me what I feel like I'm worth. Well, we don't always get to pick our worth in real life. Like, I know how I feel like what my worth is, and I don't get it every week.
Yeah.
I get a decent check, but I don't get exactly what I would like to get.
Well, I would sum it up as this. I'm going to say goodbye to you guys and thank you. We're going to thank again our sponsors, Scene, Honeymoon, and American Fireworks. And I would sum it up like this. What Le'Veon Bell is doing, he thinks is best for Le'Veon Bell. In the short term, it's what's best for our fantasy team, and that's all that matters. We'll see you next time on A to C.